is the word embodiment. This entire teaching is about embodiment. This is not a Sunday only teaching. It is not, let me pay my dues and don't worry about the rest of the week. It is about Sunday for community, and then Monday for practice, and Tuesday for contemplation, and Wednesday for renewal. And the whole week, if we are taking this teaching in properly, the whole week is a renewal and an embodiment. Because without that, this is just a hobby. It's just a hobby. Okay, and we want this to be more than that. I think, as the one standing before you and the one holding the space and the consciousness for us, I hope to have the luxury of being able to say that is what I would want for you. And maybe your embodiment during the week, maybe your embodiment is just about being kind. Maybe it's about your practice of kindness. Maybe it's your practice of generosity. And I'm going to tell you one other thing before I take you into this little experience. On Facebook, the inspiration of Facebook, sometimes it comes up with good stuff. And I'm going to invite some of you to join me in this. There was this these group of friends, and what they do is every year they go out for breakfast. They call it shock and claws. And what they do is they go out for breakfast and everybody brings $100 bill. And then what happens is they have breakfast and they pay whatever the $200. Now there's about 17 people according to the Facebook post. And about 17 people go out for breakfast, they pay for the breakfast, and they give the balance to the waitress or the waiter, which is why it's called shock and claws. Can you imagine being part of that feeling, with how good that would feel? So I'm hoping to gather some friends, and maybe it's not $100, maybe it's 50 or whatever, but to be able to implement, yes, right, Purple, isn't that great? Yes, let's do it. To be part of that feeling, to create that for that person who doesn't see it coming. What an incredible experience. So I tell you that, and I hopefully someone's going to come around and tell me, yes, we got together and we tried it. And maybe I'll hear from the chicas, and because I know as a group they love to go out and do things like that. Okay, so if you will turn, and I'm going to say this as I say it every week. If you're willing to, I encourage you to come on screen, only because we are already distant enough. Um, so I just love to see your faces. Good, I see that we're in. There's a number of people in. So if you will close your eyes for a moment and take your hands, which are healing, just like the touch of a mother. Do you remember this feeling? Maybe some of you didn't get it. I think this is the most wonderful feeling that can be. Our hands are feeling, our hands are the natural Reiki of life. And take your hands and just put them on your body, just like this, whatever. And then with your eyes closed, repeat after me as I speak these affirmations. And I would do it softly to yourself. I would make it your own whisper. God is love. I am that love. God is beauty. I am that beauty. God is power. I am that power. God is light. I am that light. God is presence. I am that presence. God is joy. I am that joy. God is grace. I am that grace. And while you revel in that feeling and that vibration that you have just cultivated, know with me now that the essence of good and beauty and wholeness of love that is everywhere present is always deeply within each of us at a cellular level. Our body temple hears it, feels it, knows it. And as we remind ourselves consciously of it, our body responds. Bask in that for a minute. And so it is. So, as you begin to come back into your body and into the room, that is a very simple practice. That is a very simple practice that can be acted upon and expressed easily, easily, every day, just every single day. And I recommend that to you again because, oh man, this teaching is all about being conscious. We are about being conscious. We are about expanding our awareness, about asking ourselves questions to wake up what needs to be woken up inside of us. And one of the things you're going to be hearing more and more about from us, and this is not quite the talk yet, it's just a reminder. I turn to my brothers and sisters who have been in recovery, in any kind of 12-step recovery program. And what I know about them is that they go initially for themselves, but they stay in the program for others. And those of us here, we've been around, some of us have been around a long time. Some of us have been around for the entire expression of CSL North Jersey. So maybe you're not going to hear anything new anymore. Maybe the music is the same and you're fed up with Zoom, but I encourage you to consider that you're not here for you, that you're here for another. That we hold each other up and we love on each other, and that's the way we grow our own. That's the way we grow ourselves, but it's the way we support the community so we can continue to do that for others. So love on yourself by being present for others, if you will. Um, I think that's just such a beautiful idea. Because I remember reaching the point in my initial community where I didn't hear anything new. But then I remembered I wasn't there for me, especially at the level of being a practitioner. It was all about other people. Because I assure you, I'm here for you. So are the practitioners and so are the other ministers. So I have a question. Does Jesus live in you? Does Jesus, the master teacher, live inside of you? And I wonder what you think about that. And if you want, you can even answer in the chat because I'm curious how, because we, if you don't know this, if you haven't touched the textbook in a while, the longest section of the textbook is on Jesus. And it might not appear that way because we don't make that many references to Jesus in the work that we do. And I know that Tony, that she wanted to go back to it as we completed the textbook this year, which I'm really hoping that you enjoyed diving into the textbook this year. I did. I mean, I thought it was a wonderful thing that we were unpacking the textbook. And then at the point of Jesus, we came near the end of the year, so we didn't serve it as much. But I want to know, because in metaphysics, and in this community, which is the beautiful thing about this community, is that we are a community that does not agree with each other. And I want you to get that. We don't necessarily have to agree with each other to be a community. But we also have a massive amount of respect for each other. And it's that respect that matters, because the world will never be filled with people that are in agreement. So I think of it as like this. If my son used to play, what do we sing? Oh yes, Jesus lives in me. Okay, got it. I got some nice activity going on in the chat there. Thank you. When my son Keith played rugby, you might not know rugby. It's it's kind of a brutal sport, although in Europe it's called a gentleman's sport, which is curious. But anyway, they have this thing called the scrum. The scrum is during the game, the men, very sweaty and gross, get into this huddle and they hook arms, and it's the brute strength that they're pushing against each other to okay, thank you, Mo. It's the brute strength that they do to get to move toward getting the ball, because they want the ball. And so for me, the ball here, and we discussed this yesterday with Barry too. Barry said, you know, there's some people that at the end of the game, when the stuff's on the line, they want the ball. And I know that has always been me. I want the ball. I want to be the one that in the moment of, you know, whatever, you know, I want to carry the ball across the line. And so, but I think of us as a community, and that we're in that scrum, and that we're there to get that ball, to support others and carry that ball across the line. What is the ball in this instance? The ball is kindness, it's consciousness, it's love. So when I ask, does Jesus live inside of you, I'm thinking about the archetypes that live within Jesus. The archetype of him as the sinner, the healer, the lover, the teacher. Do you not have all of those aspects in you? Have you not at some point been a sinner in your life? Now, what became very interesting, and it depends upon where you do your research, but there are scholars and there are biblical teachers and there are websites that do not believe that Jesus ever sinned. And I went, I got news for you. I want to know that he sinned, because I want to know Jesus the man, the one that can live inside of me. Because it is, and for me, there's evidence that he was a sinner. Because Jesus, as a sinner, is how he how he learned about forgiveness. If you have not sinned, you do not know about the value of forgiveness. Those of us who have sinned are the ones who know how necessary forgiveness is. Okay, and you're looking at someone who has made forgiveness a cornerstone of my ministry and my teaching and my classes. Why? Because I've sinned. I've made those mistakes. I've harmed. I've hurt individual feelings, and yeah, most of it might have been, well, I was unconscious, and most of it, hopefully, was that I was ignorant and not aware at the time. And then there was some stupid stuff in between. But if I'm going to take this, and I too call Jesus a master teacher. If I'm going to take the value of this master teacher, yes, sin means mistake, absolutely. But if I'm going to take the representative or what Jesus represented, if he was not a sinner, then I can't relate to him. I cannot relate to someone who has never known mistakes. Yes, and Jesus did have a temper, and he threw tantrums. And that's then all of those things are what led him to knowing the value of forgiveness, because if he had an awareness of the journey before him, he would have to know that he could not arrive at heaven's gate, whatever you want to call that. Metaphysically, we're talking about freedom and consciousness. He couldn't arrive there carrying the burden of his sin. He couldn't arrive there. We can't get to where we want to get to without releasing our sin, folks. You can't get to where you want to get to. Yes, that's beautiful, Neil. Jesus was the great example, not the great exception. Thank you. Love that. You and I cannot get to the next state of consciousness, of freedom, of wholeness, of beauty, if we're carrying all of our errors with us. Can't do it. Forgiveness must be part of what we do. Must be. And so for me, just Jesus, the sinner, lives in me. And for most of you, it lives in you. And we haven't all had the same, but a great conversation on the way home yesterday from our training with Barry. And lots of great stuff was stimulated. And we acknowledged in the car that we all don't have the exact same experiences. Some of you were not raised as at the mercy of a heavy hand. Some of you don't know abuse. Some of you don't know neglect. Some of you don't know lies. Some of you don't know about some of the violence that is so intimate in the lives of others of us. You were graced. But those of us who know it carry that, and the freedom comes then from releasing it, and from releasing our perpetrators, and from releasing ourselves for suffering and for our own condemnation. Healer. Does Jesus the healer live inside of you? I say yes, every single one of you. Because if you're here today, there's 44 windows open. I say if you're actually listening, you're listening for a different message. You're listening because your listening is plugged into something different. But I believe that we are all so close to it. We have been so immersed for so many years that most of us are not appreciating the fact that you're different. You're freer than most people know. You're less fearful than most people walking the earth. You are basically happier. Do you still judge? Probably. But my guess is that you have an awareness, or you judge less. You and I are like the fish in the water. We're so close. We don't even know that we're swimming in the sweet essence of possibility. How is that being a healer? Because you're not carrying condemnation to the next relationship. You're not carrying blame into the next relationship. Or if you are, you catch it and correct it as quickly as you can. You hearing me? You hearing me? So you are a healer by proxy of being full, whole, being aware that you're not at the mercy of life, of the let's take COVID. Let's just take COVID because we're still in it, right? Yes, it's an element and it's impacting our lives on the outside, but it does not call for us to subscribe to it. We can do what we need to do, and then still choose to know that we can move out of it. And that was the reading from Evelyn today. Emma Curtis Hopkins was brilliant because she believed in nothing but the state of wholeness and perfection. And if you subscribe that for a lifetime, or you subscribe to that for a minute, and you walk in that, I guarantee you are carrying something different into every room that you enter. Will you fall at times? Yes. Will you make mistakes? Yes. Will you will you trip over yourself? Yes. Yeah. And then we pull ourselves back up, we brush ourselves off, and we love on ourselves. And then we return to that healing consciousness, which is about being self aware. And then there's Jesus as the lover. Oh, the representation that he was for unconditional love. Oh, my Lord. That's pretty funny. I didn't really mean to say that like that. Wait. There's one other point I want to make about Jesus as the healer. Because each one of you, now, was the Bible literal? Is the whole thing metaphysical? You get to decide that. You get to decide what the healing that he did, were these miracles saved only for Jesus? Were they real? Do they have a message for each one of us? But I'm going to let each one of you decide that on your own. I say that no, it was not for Jesus only. I say that we each carry that miraculous possibility of healing in the room. I have witnessed it. There are people here who have witnessed instantaneous healing. We know that. We know that from within our community. So just contemplate upon that. Contemplate that. And as Jesus as the lover, this has been very important to me recently. I'm gonna practice. I'm gonna practice true confession with you. Okay, this has been a thing I've been doing a lot lately, which just means calling myself out on my bullshit. Okay, I'm here to admit to you that I have had and have lived with more conditional acceptance than I would like to admit to you. That I have not always lived as much into unconditional love and unconditional acceptance as I spoke about. I've managed now to close the gap, not completely, but to close the gap so much more on wanting to love unconditionally and loving unconditionally. But I have to talk myself through it, and let me tell you how I do it. It's always easiest with a family member. I have some family members whose behavior and choices in life I consider questionable. But if I allow that question to separate me from them, I'm putting a condition. So I am choosing to say to myself, either inside or out if I'm alone, I love them anyway. I love him anyway. I love her anyway. I accept her anyway. I accept it anyway. So I talk myself through it. But every time I do, there is less room for me not to love and less room for me not to be fully in that experience of unconditional love. I invite you to try it. I invite you to try the next time someone's in your face and all you want to do is inside your mind, think to yourself, can I love them anyway? And see how that feels. And see what it does to you. See what that does here in your heart and in your mind. And for me, all of these things that I just spoke to add to Jesus as the master teacher. You know, the absolute teacher that he was, the path that he walked upon. Do I completely believe that Jesus was a man of flesh? I still dabble with that idea, but I'm willing to take the lessons, the archetypical lessons that have been credited to him, and to gain value from them. And and it's interesting. Okay, remember, some of y'all might have been raised in churches with Bibles. I was not one of those people. So, color my surprise when I'm doing my research, and I read from Psalm 139. And in Psalm 139, oh my God, it was this whole beautiful thing about, the quote, there's no place where Jesus is, or there's no place where God is not, some people will say where Jesus is not, there's no place where it's not, or he's not. Okay. And so this whole psalm is about where Jesus is in the sky, in the earth, in the this and the that. And then at the end of the psalm, it goes on to where they claim that Jesus says, "But Jesus, for those who don't believe in you, I have hate for them." I was like, "What? What do you think about that? How does that sit in you?" And I'm really asking, how does it sit in you? I'm reading this, and then I checked. Of course, I have my metaphysical Bible, and I have a couple different resources. And I'm looking at this, I'm like, oh hell no! It does seem hypocritical, doesn't it? And then I think, and if Barry were teaching, because Barry is, collegiate and in his religious studies, he would be able to tell me what the metaphysical meaning was. I'm certain, and maybe some of you can too. But I know for me, even having read that, even with that there, I refuse to throw Jesus out with the bathwater. The whole thing, don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. I refuse, because I've shunned that part of my life, not in recent years. I've shunned it enough, though, because it was hard for me to understand. But truth be told, I want it. I want the lover, the healer, the teacher of Jesus. I want the wisdom that Mohammed brought. I want the wisdom that Abraham brought. I want the wisdom that Buddha brought. And I want to bask in the concepts, and bask in the archetypes, without separating myself. So wait. Did something just get written there that I should read? Okay, I don't. That does not help me at all. So I'll have to look at it later. But so I'm here to ask you: are you willing to to adopt the aspects of these teachers, even if it's wrapped in what it's wrapped in, even if it's wrapped in something else? So join me right now, if you will. Okay, join me. There's a power, a presence, a love. It goes by so many names. It is beautiful, holy, sacred, and logical, and scientific. It is a vibration, it is an essence, it is a movement of mind and heart. And by any name, it is stunning. Absolutely stunning. So I trust in this moment that this power, this presence, this love that lives in, through, and as each and every one of us, that we go forth today as the ministers of this idea, bringing this ministry to every family member, to every neighbor, to every stranger that we engage, that we are the walking, talking essence of being the lover and the healer, and maybe the sinner and the teacher. Let us walk in that. Let us love from that place. feeling lifted and guided and loved in the most beautiful way possible. Oh, I'm so grateful for this time, for this inspiration, for this community. I'm so grateful. With a great sense of blessing in my heart, I release this word to love, to law, to the awe of life itself, and close this with me by saying, and so it is.